I'm a gun with the Florida Gators.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I was just checking to see if you were listening.
From Destrehan, Louisiana. Hold on a second. Hey, guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay? Thank you.
Momentum, excitement, energy. They say all this stuff and you know what they mean, but you know, it doesn't describe what you mean. It's just sort of out there.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
I was just worried about, listening to, all your guys' rap poison.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. Here are your hosts, Sergio and Tyler.
Welcome to Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And today, Tyler, we are previewing week 2 of the college football season. We have a lighter schedule of games this week. I think we can both confidently agree on that one.
It's a nice way to put it.
It is a nice way to put it. There are some interesting games here, though. But I would be lying to our audience if I said that we didn't have trouble filling out our 5 wide. But we, alas, will be going through 5 wide. We will talk about the Gator game. And we will, of course, be starting with quick hits and a bit of, as they say on Split Zone Duo, a bit of podcast business. I announced last week that a newsletter is coming. A newsletter. Today is Thursday when you are listening to this podcast, which means that tomorrow will be the launch of the Sideline Judgment newsletter, the first edition. I'm planning on sending them out on Fridays. I'll write them on Thursdays. I'll send them out on Fridays. And if you would like to be on the newsletter and like to see the stuff that I go ahead and write, go ahead and send your email address to sidelinejudgment@gmail.com. That's judgment with an E, Judge, like a judge, judgment@gmail.com. And I will be putting you on that mailing list for the newsletter. I'm going to be talking about games from previous weeks. I'm going to be talking about the games upcoming. The napkin will live on the newsletter, Tyler, the famous napkin of infamous gambling napkin that's starting in October 15th.
Which is legal now in some states.
And is legal in some states and will be legal in the state of Florida on October 15th. So who's counting? But yeah, if you want to go ahead and be on that newsletter, send your email, sidelinejudgment@gmail.com. That's judgment with an E. And you will be receiving all of the lovely information that my fingers decide to type out. With that being said, Tyler, let's go ahead and talk about some college football quick hits. I want to start real quick with last week on Monday. Ole Miss ended up beating Louisville 43-24. We were recording while that game was in progress. And that was my 2-point conversion for last week. So we are tied at 4 points apiece, Tyler. So that came in clutch for me.
Look at you.
And
coming back at the last minute.
You know it. And I don't want to spend too much time on this game, but I do want to say the Ole Miss defense, drastic improvement. Granted, it is Louisville. I know that Louisville's offense is a bit anemic at times, but it was a drastic improvement to whatever was going on there last year. And Lane Kiffin was not at the game. And as you heard in the episode during our week 1 review episode, that's the one episode prior on your podcast feed, there were 4 targeting penalties in the first half of that game. And so bit of an interesting storyline there. And yeah, Ole Miss looks really good. The offense was clicking. Defense looks much better. It's pretty good for them over in Mississippi. Tyler, I do want to talk about some news from the past couple of weeks. We didn't get a chance to dive into it. There are 4 new potential Big 12 teams, Tyler. Ooh is right. It's the usual suspects. You have UCF, Houston.
Are they getting Oklahoma and Texas back? Are they bringing Texas A&M and Missouri back to them? It was a double agent operation. They went to infiltrate the SEC to get their old guys back.
Yeah, somehow James Bond is the athletic director at both Oklahoma and Texas, and that
would explain nothing because that wouldn't make any sense.
He's super stealth, trying to figure something out. No, but the 4 new potential teams are BYU, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati. I say potential because nothing has been accepted. But as we know, Tyler, in college football, once we get wind of these things, it's almost a certainty that those things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Cincinnati actually has already officially applied for membership. They did that today, Wednesday, September 8th. And we expect the other 3 schools to follow suit. Tyler, do you think these teams fit in the Big 12? And do you think this is the right decision for the Big 12 to be making?
In the Big 12's current makeup, I would say that BYU and Cincinnati don't traditionally fit. Houston and UCF super very much do. But then you kind of think about, just because like Nebraska's not in the Big 12 anymore, so that Midwestern presence is starting to slowly has kind of faded away from the Big 12. It seems very much of a Southwest thing. So that Pacific North, Midwest 5 is not really there. But that being said, from a standpoint of, like, for those teams to join this conference, it makes sense. And also, it's one of those things where college football is becoming more national. Getting a team in Florida is a great win for the Big 12. Like, in my opinion, like, I know it's, you don't hold your pitchforks when I say this. I know it's just UCF, like, but getting a foothold in Florida is huge for the Big 12. You know, getting Houston can be good. I mean, it's like you can't really go for expansion from a lower level and not include Houston. Like, Houston's bad right now,
but it's just right.
Yeah,
right.
But
the program is bad at the moment, but I think that the
Houston,
potential
like,
for that program is sky high. Yeah, it's Houston.
Yeah,
it's the same reason it's the same reason why UCF, made a New Year's Six bowl game at the beginning of the 2010s, then ended up having a winless season, and then ended up having an undefeated season. Like, there is potential for success in a state like Florida, in a state like Texas, in a state like Ohio, in a state like Georgia. When you can get those types of schools that produce high quantities of quality, high school talent. See what I did there? Then you have the ability for success. Now, Ohio, where Cincinnati is a state that does that. Houston is in Texas. They do that. UCF is in Florida. They do that. BYU seems to kind of be the outlier in this situation.
Yeah.
I'm feeling, I read a great newsletter by Matt Brown of Extra Points. You should go ahead and subscribe to his newsletter. It's fantastic. And he was talking about how the Big 12's decision here was looking at fast growing markets, right? It's not necessarily the fast markets, growing markets in terms of television revenue, right? Which is what kind of drove expansion the last time. That's why Rutgers is in the Big 10, because they wanted the New York City area. But it's more for population, right? Orlando and Salt Lake City are 2 of the fastest growing population cities by population in the country over the past 10, 15 years. So by getting more eyeballs on that program, by getting more hype in those cities, they're kind of able to maintain that relevancy, because there was this fear, a lot of the Big 12 schools are really rural, right? You have Stillwater, Oklahoma. You have all these schools in Texas, probably outside of TCU, that are in small towns.
Straight up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And Waco is known for...
I never really understood that until I drove through Texas, and I was like, dear God, how does every town is just its own country.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then the only reason we know about Waco, Texas is Chip and Joanne. My girlfriend knows about Waco, Texas because of Chip and Joanne. So there's all these different rural areas. They need a big city like Orlando. They need a big city like Houston. They need a big city like Salt Lake City, where BYU is. And Cincinnati is also a large city as well. So they need these more urban areas compared to the rural areas that they have. So I like this move for them. There's people saying the arguments of, why didn't they go after Boise State? They're probably a better football fit than BYU. But again, Boise's in Boise, Idaho. BYU is in Salt Lake City. So that's just the weird thing I feel.
And also you have to consider the fact that Boise, it's that weird thing where Boise State would probably take a call to expand. They would go to the Pac-12. Like, it's just too perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also the thing of, like, Boise's in a nice situation where Boise has kind of cornered themselves into their market. Like, they are the best of their teams in their area. And as soon as you try to start playing in a bigger pond, you might get swallowed and you might not be special anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right. Exactly.
Because right now they're stealing kids from the USCs and the UCLAs because they're a big lower level school where they can get playing time. If they're in the same conference, is that still going to happen? I don't know.
Who knows?
So, and this is something that UCF, BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati do also have to think about. Now, I think for them, it would probably be better because they're not in traditionally the exact same recruiting markets as those most of the teams they're about to face. Houston might have more of a problem, but like UCF's still probably going to be getting the same people, and now just has like UCF is not going to start going after kids in Texas as much. I think it's more of like other teams are going to try and come into Florida now. But UCF is probably just now going to have a bigger sell for those kids.
Yeah, and I think it's also a money situation because there was a question in that Matt Brown Extra Points newsletter that said, will this be considered a quote unquote power conference? And I want to emphasize a quote unquote power conference doesn't exist. They're called the autonomy conferences, which are the NCAA has given these 5 conferences the ability to make their own decisions. And so the Big 12 currently is listed as that. Now it's interesting to see when Texas and Oklahoma leave and these 4 teams come in, which, by the way, hey, Big 12 is finally going to have 12 teams again. When they come in, are they going to be considered that
now
high
just
level
take
conference?
4 teams away from the Big 10?
Yeah. Yeah, right. For real. That's why you don't name your conference SEC. Number your conference, I should say. So, yep, just that kind of news. It's interesting. We'll see where it develops. The only real concrete development we've had is Cincinnati officially applying. And yeah, I like this also quickly on a micro scale where I'm interested to see who the American gets because the American is clearly the best of the group of 5 conferences. I'm interested to see where they get. They lose probably their most important programs in Cincinnati and UCF. And so it's interesting to see, do they go after another Florida school like an FAU? Do they go after maybe App State and Coastal? You know what I mean? Maybe they go into the Sun Belt area to try to do some more inroads in the Deep South. So interesting to see where they go. I would like to see what happens. I would like to see it. So last thing on quick hits, it was reported by The Athletic earlier today. JT Daniels is in jeopardy of missing the game against UAB with an upper body injury, but they have said that it is not to be a big deal. If he does not play, then redshirt freshman Carson Beck will be getting the start. And deep down in the article on The Athletic, there was a piece that said, Stetson Bennett is still there, but he's not going to get any playing time. So it's interesting.
The law offices of Stetson Bennett the fourth.
Yes, sir. They are still operational.
Not getting quite as many big clients, though.
I know. Nothing to worry about, Georgia fans, but I just thought it was an important thing in case you turn on a Georgia game and it's like, hey, I thought JT Daniels was supposed to be. No, who's this Carson Beck guy? Blah, 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 blah. So, Tyler, the opposite of the Georgia Bulldogs are our beloved Florida Gators.
Yeah.
And they head down to Tampa to take on USF. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff on ABC, 1 o'clock Eastern.
10 a.m. for you, boy.
10 a.m. for you. Little morning beers. We've had some quarterback controversy this season. And I can't believe I'm saying this because it's been 1 week.
It's been one game.
And let me emphasize, it's been a controversy within a section of the fan base. Quite be it, a very vocal section of the fan base. Dan Mullen, the players, the 2 quarterbacks in question, there's no controversy there. Emory Jones is the starter. It was said after the press conference in the last game against FAU. Tyler, what are you expecting to see from this offense? Because I feel like it's just an extension of last week to try to just get in the rhythm and get this offense kind of going before the biggest game of the season so far in Alabama.
So, I mean, what we found out last week is what we kind of suspected this team was going to be able to do. This team can run. And I would so that's good to know. I don't need them to prove that to me because they'll be able to run. If they wanted to, they could probably run all the way through USF. I want to see the passing game emphasized. And I get why, you don't do that in the first game because you're just trying to run the offense the way you should run it. But now I want to see more. I want to see Emory Jones pass the ball because before he threw his first pick, he was looking great. That's not a great thing to hear out of your quarterback. You don't want them to spiral after they throw interceptions. So I want to see an emphasis on the passing game. I want to see what happens. I want to see how they're able to do it. If the wide receivers can separate, because something to keep in mind is that we don't, as much as Emory Jones may have struggled last week, we don't have Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts anymore. There's no Trayvon Grimes on this team. So like Jacob Copeland's good, but he only had one catch last week. So I want to see an emphasis on the passing game. I don't think that Florida has really much of a shot to beat Alabama at all, but if Florida wants to be good this season great this season instead of good, you have to be able to throw the ball.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll never say that I want us to turn the ball over or that I want us to throw an interception, but I'm not going to be mad if an interception is thrown solely because I want to see Emory's reaction. I want to see how he responds to that kind of mistake, to that kind of error, because last week, clearly it kind of got to him. Could be first start. The swamp was packed. There were a lot of things going on Saturday. And for AR-15, for Anthony Richardson, it was a bit easier for him because he knew that he wasn't going into that game as the starter. He knew that he was coming in as a change of pace, and he was coming in case something happened, which, fine, great.
And that's what Emory Jones has been doing for the last 2 years.
Exactly, and he looked really good doing that in the past 2 years. Tyler, I'm old enough to remember when people were saying we should bench Trask because we have Emory Jones back there. So ludicrous. It seems like this is a recurring theme within a very vocal section of our fan base. Listen, I think Anthony Richardson is better in terms of talent. I do not think that Anthony Richardson is more prepared to be the starter. I am going to give you an analogy, and I think you'll agree with me. I think this season could be very much, we said this before the season started, it could be like 2006. I see Emory Jones being the Chris Leak. Now, granted, Chris Leak had more experience than Emory Jones at the time, but still, the starter that's going to be more in charge of facilitating the offense, knows the offense a bit better, and then Anthony Richardson is the Tebow comparison. I'm not saying he's Tebow, even though they wear the same number, but he's a Tebow comparison, and the guy is probably more gifted, talently. We said it before, he's a freak of nature, more athletic. He has a cannon of an arm that he needs to control, but he's still learning the playbook. He's still learning how college football works, how the system works. And there's an old saying in soccer, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think in college football, we can say if you're good enough, you're ready. I don't think that's the case right now. I don't think AR is completely ready to take over the team start to finish. That could be different further down the line. And I think it's unfortunate that Alabama is the third game of the season and the first quote unquote big game after two more
cupcakes,
tune-up type. I don't want to call them cupcakes because I don't think they're cupcakes. That's a good point,
because they're not like Missouri State or anything like.
Exactly right, but they're not Alabama. They're not a high-level SEC. Yeah. I kind of wish we had played Kentucky before we played Alabama, something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see how that happens. I'm excited to see the dynamic between the quarterbacks. On the defensive side of the ball, Tyler, I want to see this defense basically do an extension of what they did last week. I want them to get as confident as possible, because some of the best defenses we've had in UF history have been very confident defenses, have been defenses that have been very organized, have been defenses that have communicated. And I saw a lot of that in the game last week. I just want to see an extension. Not much to say on the defense for me. I want to see an extension of last week. I want to see us keep getting better and better, understanding the defense, keeping it simple from Grantham. And then every once in a while, when he does Grantham type things, it can have an effect.
Yeah, I agree. The defense played really well, and this is a worse offense than they played last week. So I want to see the starters. I want to see the starters play hard. I want to see them. I don't think that the starters, if they play well, should give up a touchdown to USF. But I say that circumstances can be different. Things change. But I want to see that confidence. I want to see the aggressiveness. I want to see the front four dominate. I want to see coverage in the secondary. Knowing I'll probably be watching this game with Stephen Peters, he will. One thing you guys should know about watching the games with the noted Eagles fan Stephen Peters is that It's
is
like
that he's
any
always
moment
optimistic.
No, yeah. Steven Peters is the least optimistic football watcher ever. Like, and I say that it's funny because he's not like upset all the time. It's just that anything that happens is indicative of something that's wrong. Like,
so have you ever seen a football game? Have you ever seen a football game with Day-Day?
I've never actually watched a football game with Day-Day. I imagine it's the same thing. Like,
it's the same. It's the same.
Yeah, no. Our entire relationship when we watch these games is basically me being like, "All right, chill." Like, so I'm hoping to see the defense play fast. I want to see good coverage in the secondary. I don't want to see anybody get beat. Somebody got beat in the last game, really. But I want to see good coverage. Mm-hmm. I want to see the scheme not get too complex. I want the simplicity that was working.
And right. And some of the getting into the rhythm doesn't necessarily mean for the players. I mean that to you, Todd. Okay. I also mean that to you, Todd Grantham. Please get into a rhythm and get into the simplicity rhythm that we had last week. So, special teams, still don't know your names, but honestly, that's a good thing. I don't want to have to learn your names, or if I do learn your names, I would like it to be the kicker and the guy, if on a big important kick. And I think at this point, Tyler, I don't even want to look him up. I just kind of want it to be a bit from now on. I really do. Is your name one of the Townsend? Is your last name Townsend, and or are you Eddie Pinheiro, and or are you Evan McPherson? No, okay, then I don't know your names.
I don't know your name.
I'll be calling Florida punters. Oh, is that another Townsend brother? Until I die, Tyler. All right, they're all Townsends.
That family's done a lot for this school.
Yeah, absolutely. More than some other families. Hey-o. Mm-hmm. Tyler, that wraps up the Gators. Let's go into 5 wide. As I said earlier, a bit more difficult to pick our 5 games this week. There were 3 for sure's, right? There were 3 for sure games. Yeah. Let's start with one of them. Let's start with probably the game of the week. Oh, okay, this is the national game of the week. This is not the sideline
game of the week.
Exactly. You get me. We'll get to that one next. The number 12 ranked Oregon Ducks heading to Columbus to the Horseshoe to take on the number 3 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. It is a noon kickoff Eastern, 11 a.m. local time on Fox. Gus Johnson is going to be calling this game. It'll be fun. I'm excited to catch the first hour of this game until the Gator game starts. And this will be the second screen game once the Gator game starts. So I'm excited. Tyler, Oregon didn't look... I picked first this time. Uh-huh. So Oregon... So they struggled against Fresno State. There's reports from Mario Cristobal at a press conference today that Kayvon Thibodeau, the number 1 player in the country, the defensive player for Oregon, that he's still kind of trying to go this Saturday. I'm sure he'll play, but I'm not entirely sure. And to be honest, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I have Ohio State winning this game. I think what we saw by Ohio State last week against Minnesota, the first half, I think, was just a true redshirt freshman quarterback in his first start on the road in a conference game in a hostile environment at night on a Thursday. There was a lot thrown at CJ Stroud last week. I think he got more comfortable. I think having a game day at home, I think making it, having the weapons that he has and Ryan Day at his disposal, it's not that I don't think that this game will be a blowout. I don't think that. But I do think that Ohio State will win pretty comfortably. This may be a 10 to 14 point win, but they'll pull away late kind of thing. I have Ohio State. Who do you have?
Okay. I also have Ohio State. Not even going to let anybody wait for it. Largely because if Kayvon Thibodeau was 100, it's one of those things where combined with the struggles we saw of Ohio State and Oregon's defense being, their strength, you can make an argument up until you realize Oregon's quarterback situation. And then that argument just falls apart. All that being said, Kayvon Thibodeau is not even 100 right now. So there's not really a situation I see. And it's unfortunate because there's other worlds and other years where this would have been a really cool game to see. And it'll still be fun to watch, but I think it's going to be competitive early, I bet you. But I think Ohio State's going to pull away with this one. Pretty confidently in that.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in that as well. Not very difficult of a thing to say for both of us, I think. I do know that Oregon is going to be getting some players back, some defensive players back, I believe, in the secondary. So they'll be a little bit more equipped to take on that deadly wide receiving core that Ohio State has, but I just don't think it'll be enough, especially at home. Oregon's playing this game at 8 a.m. local time, body clock local time. Like, there's something to be said about that as well. So we both have Ohio State. Tyler, the next game is the Sideline Judgment game of the week. It's a game that it is a game that we look forward to at the beginning of the year. I wish this game was played at the end of the year. I really do. Like, I'm happy right now that I get to watch it tomorrow, but I really do wish that this was at the end of the year. It deserves it. It is Cy-Hawk. It is the number 10 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes heading to Ames, Iowa, Tyler's spiritual homeland, to take on the number 9 ranked.
Place I've never been.
To take on the number 9 ranked Iowa State Cyclones. It's a 4:30 kickoff on ABC. So you can watch the Gator game. Keep it right on there, because then you're going to watch the Sideline Judgment game of the week. It's just a back-to-back Sideline Judgment beauty right there on ABC. Tyler, you go first. Who do you have in this game? Are you going to stick to the brand? Are you going to stick to your brand?
Well, I'm going to explain my thought process here. So it's important to note that as much as I love Iowa State, there's one and as much as I think that Matt Campbell is so good at coaching, especially right there, I want him for so many jobs, but I think I love the fact that he continues to stay at Iowa State. But there's something to be said for the fact that he has still never beaten Iowa. And now it's important to note, Iowa and Iowa State, while rivals, are not on the same level of football program historically. Like, they're just not. What Iowa State is now, has been for the last few years, is an anomaly of their program's history. And what Iowa is just pretty much what they always are. And so it's understandable that that Iowa State has not gotten over that hump, which has not been. It's weird because it happened at the beginning of the year, and Matt Campbell has so many chances to make up for it later in the year, and he always does. And then there's one year where they were on the track to win, and then they muffed a punt at the end.
I remember that,
which allowed Iowa to keep hold of the ball and run out the clock. So they've been close. Now, my head is telling me to pick Iowa, but I can't trust my head on the account that I'm out here in California now. So I gotta trust my heart, and we're going with the Iowa State Cyclones. They're taking the Cy-Hawk Trophy this year. They're finally going to do it. Matt Campbell's got it, and if it had just done it last year, that would have been the greatest Iowa State team of all time. But you know what? It's good. Now it's time for a second try.
So they didn't play last year because of the non-conference stuff.
You're so right.
That lucked out in that. Iowa lucked out, because I do think that they would have beaten Iowa last year. And like you said, look,
I
the
totally
streak's got to end at some
that.
point.
Even more for reason for me to pick Iowa State.
Right. So the streak's got to end at some point. I have to pick with my head here.
It's okay.
It's not that I disagree, right? I just think from what I saw last week. Now, granted, Indiana may not be that good. Definitely not as good as they were last season, but they may not be good, period. The Iowa defense looked really good last week. And one thing about Kirk Ferentz, that man's going to have his team playing disciplined, hard-nosed football. I'm a little bit worried about the offense. I didn't think that the offense was very energetic, I should say. There were times where it was anemic. I know that there were a lot of points scored, but 14 of those points were pick sixes. So I'm still going to take Iowa because I think that the defense is good enough to contain Brock Purdy I didn't think Brock Purdy looked very good against Northern Iowa. It's not indicative of who he is. I just think he didn't have a good performance.
It is important, worth noting that part of the reason that Iowa State has had trouble is that Iowa State always takes some time to get going. Like, okay,
that was gonna be my next point. Where I don't know what it is about
to me.
I don't know if it's impressive or disappointed or I don't know if it feels impressive or if it feels disappointing, because Matt Campbell is on the Dan Mullen level of my teams, on the Pat Fitzgerald level of my teams get better as the seasons go forward. That is an impressive thing to do. Okay, that is like difficult as a coach. Your team gets significantly better. But that's why I wish this game was played at the end of the season. I'm convinced that if this game was played at the end of the season, Iowa would not be on the streak that they're on. I think Iowa State would win maybe the last 2 or 3 years, maybe not the years where what was that wide receiver?
They would win all the Brock Purdy years.
They would win the Brock Purdy years. That's what I should say. Yes. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Iowa. I know the game is in Ames. Crazy things happen. The game is at 3:30 local time. And honestly, I think for the Sideline Judgment game of the week, I think we should be on different sides, man.
Hey, I respect it. I like that we got some stakes in this one.
Just for the content, I feel like we should. But let me be honest. I won't be sad. I'll be disappointed because I didn't get the point. But just like Matt Campbell, I will have plenty of time in the offseason to fix up this situation. So if I lose this game. So that's what makes me feel that way. You have Iowa State. I have Iowa. Tyler, let's head to a game that's a bit closer to me. That is App State coming to Coral Gables, as if Miami has a stadium on campus, heading to Miami Gardens. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. They will be heading to Miami Gardens, to Hard Rock Stadium, to take on the Miami Hurricanes, number 22 ranked Miami Hurricanes. That is a 7:00 kickoff on ESPNU. Yes, we have ESPNU games on the 5 wide. I told you it was a very barren week, ladies and gentlemen. For me, it's pretty simple. I thought Chase Bryce played relatively well last week for App State. They cruised and won pretty easily. We were making fun of Chase Bryce last year. This is the former Clemson quarterback who then transferred to Duke, who then was like really bad at Duke and then dropped down to App State. And we thought, oh boy, this is going to be bad for App State. But no, he looked relatively decent. Now, this is Chase Bryce going up against a really talented Miami defense. And that, Tyler, is a recipe for disaster. I think Miami's a good team. I think Miami had the unfortunate situation.
Why did teams schedule Alabama? I don't get it.
The paycheck. It was the Atlanta Chick-fil-A game. It was the paycheck. We all know what it was. It was definitely rough to see them out there. But I think that Miami is actually a very talented team. I like some of their players, especially on defense. De'Aaron King, I think, is going to do a good job of getting into App State's head kind of thing. So I like Miami. I'm going to take Miami. I think they're more talented. I'm not saying this is a blowout, but because I think App State is a well-coached team. I think App State has some talent, but I'm definitely going to take Miami on this one. Who do you have, Tyler?
I am also going to take Miami, and I'm not going to take too long to talk about this. This does not feel like an App State team that is full of world beaters, which we've had App State teams like that before. It just seems like a good App State team. Miami, as much as they lost by an incredibly large amount to Alabama in an incredibly short period of time, it's still, I still think it's an okay team at least. Like, last year they were good. I would venture to say they're probably good again. Not great. I don't think they're a great team, but I think at home with their defense, I think they can do it. The only thing I'd be worried about for them is the Alabama hangover that Alabama sometimes does to teams, where like they beat you not just for that week but for another week after that.
Yeah. We talk about that concept on here a lot, where Alabama
that would be the way that App State could win.
Yeah,
but I'm going to go with Miami.
Yeah, and look, there's been a lot of. Okay, let me put this nicely. There's been a lot of positive energy around Miami down here. I was trying to be nice and not say that they legitimately thought they were going to beat Alabama. But
some
whatever.
people did.
A lot of people down here thought, Tyler. Like, I'm not joking. Like, these people really, really thought. I don't know what's in the croquetas, but bro,
You know.
I do know, but I don't eat those croquetas.
Don't plead the fifth here.
Okay, they're pretty good, but I eat those croquetas, and all of a sudden I'm like, of course, Emory Jones is going to throw for 6 touchdowns against Bama. Are you kidding me? Come on. No, but it's one of those situations where they're going to come back to earth, but this isn't a fraud Miami team. This is a good Miami team. This is a Miami team that can win the Coastal. Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is probably going to be one of the better Miami teams in a few years. So,
great.
Tyler, moving forward, we have a game that was supposed to be looking better than it was. But
man, you played this game in 2016. This is a banger.
Ooh, this is a no skips. We have 2 unranked teams. We have Washington taking on Michigan. It's an 8:00 kickoff on ABC. It is in Ann Arbor. It is a night game. It is going to be a fun television atmosphere. I'm not going to go too hard on this. I'm not convinced.
I'm first, so I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Tyler.
I am going to go hard on this. No. But, all right. Every logical thing in me tells me to take Michigan because Michigan won against a bad team and Washington lost against a very bad team. But you know what Washington still does well? They play defense. And you know what I'll never trust Michigan to have? A quarterback who can beat a good defense. So I'm going to take Washington.
Okay, so this is where my Jim Harbaugh principle is going to come into play. Is this the year?
Oh my God!
Where he gets his quarterback?
I can feel it on the other side of the country. Like,
is this the year where he gets his quarterback to be able to break down defenses? I watched some of the other game. It was a tertiary screen last week of their game against Western Michigan. I liked Cade McNamara for what I saw. He's not a world beater, but I liked what I saw. Was smart, made good decisions. They have a pretty good run game. I think that this game will be low scoring. I think you should allegedly definitely take the under. That may make an appearance on the napkin. And I think Cade McNamara is going to make enough play. I have more faith in Cade McNamara and Jim Harbaugh's offense going up against Jimmy Lake's defense than I do whatever the hell's going on with Washington's offensive side of the ball going up against the Michigan defense, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I'm just on the opposite side of it, partly for the lulls, but also because, like, as much as anything, Washington's defense was incredible still.
They were.
And I just don't trust a Jim Harbaugh quarterback until I'm proven that I can. I won't trust one.
This could be it, though. This could be it, my friend.
This could be it, but I can also totally see him throwing 3 picks and Washington running it down their throat. Like,
yeah, okay, makes sense.
I'm not saying what I'm picking is likely. I'm just saying I'm picking it,
and I respect it. Last game for 5 wide. Tyler, we have number 21 Utah taking on BYU 10:15 on ESPN. Pac-12 After Dark is the holy war. Let's go. Another beautiful case of early season rivalry football. I love it to death. This game has been bonkers the past few years. For me, it's pretty simple. I watched a little bit of BYU Arizona, and I thought BYU was letting Arizona stay in the game for a little too long. And I didn't watch any of Utah's game, even though I heard that they struggled a little bit. I have more faith in Kyle Whittingham. I'm going to take Utah.
I'm going to agree.
Nice.
Also because, I mean, Utah did lose. Sorry, no, not Utah. BYU did lose Zach Wilson, so it's got to count for a little bit of something. It still is a good team, but I admittedly have not watched pretty much any of either of these two teams yet, but I do trust Kyle Whittingham, and Kyle Whittingham has won a large percentage of the most recent matches of this game. Like, I
believe he's only lost. I think they're like 4-1 in their last 5, something like that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Utah as well. I hope they do the red on blue.
Yeah, so beautiful.
It was so beautiful. I can't wait. I love these early season rivalry games, especially when we're about to be right. But yeah, good old Holy War, and it's at a reasonable time for me. It's 7:00.
Look at that! Look at that! It's a reasonable time for you.
It does kind of suck that like there is no Pac-12 after dark for me.
I was gonna say you can't like lay in bed at 1 a.m. and
with
just
football.
watch football. Yeah, like that is a staple.
It's funny because on Pac-12 Network, which I watch now, evidently.
Oh my god!
Not really, but it's funny that that it exists because it only ever existed in my mind. Like
it was a theory.
It was a fiction that we all decided to collaboratively believe in.
It was like The Matrix.
Yeah, very much like that, except for it's real.
Well, I think you took the blue pill there.
Sure, all right. But anyway, like they still logo it Pac-12 after dark, and I'm like, but it's not after dark here. The sun doesn't go down till 8:00 in this city. Are you sitting there labeling it Pac-12 after dark for the people that aren't in the Pac-12 network area that are watching this that have the Pac-12 network?
So, right. So let me get this straight, right? So for the 17 people that live outside of the Pac-12 geographical area that have the Pac-12 network, that's for them.
Pay the extra money for it.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. All those USC grads living in New York City. Tyler, that wraps up 5 wide.
I will say, just note, I have met more NYU grads in this city so far than I have met USC or UCLA grads.
And listen, just like us, they're bi-coastal, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I mean, come on.
It's all good.
All right, Tyler. It's time for 2-point conversions. You are up first this week. So what is your 2-point conversion?
There's a lot of good games that we didn't discuss. Texas, Arkansas is one of them. Other games, Stanford, USC is interesting. I would be interested to watch Arizona State, UNLV, just because I want to see what Arizona State looks like. Texas A&M, Colorado, both are 1-0.
I agree.
I don't really expect that to be much of competition. But I will say I'm going to go a little bit outside of that. I'm going to go to a game that's on Friday. I'm going to go.
This is not fair.
Oh, shut up. The Kansas Jayhawks, the undefeated Kansas Jayhawks, are traveling to Conway, South Carolina to face the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Now, boy, I say, like, look how I say the Chanticleers about to whoop some butt. So I think I'm going to take the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers to beat the Kansas Jayhawks, which, I feel like isn't fair, but also no regrets.
Okay, hold on. I'm looking up what that line is. I'm curious.
I'll tell you right now
to see what the line is. Hold on. Oh,
I didn't look at the line until
let's see what this line is.
I didn't look at the line until I already said my pick, and I was like, "Oh boy, Sergio's not going to like this."
Oh my God! Do you know what the spread is?
Yes, it's 20. It's Coastal Carolina.
The spread is Coastal Carolina by 25.5.
25
oh
and
my
a half?
God! Yes, it moved. That means that people are taking that.
Oh my God!
Oh my God! Oh, Kansas.
I feel very
we can't be doing this.
If you think that's too big, I will take another one.
No, it's fine. That's a fun for the brand pick. I do like that a lot. That's acceptable.
Mostly just I took it mostly because I couldn't let that game go unmentioned.
I for the content and for the brand, I respect it. The game is in Conway, South Carolina, too, by the way. So
yeah, I know. Hey, if Lance Leapold wins this game, trophy, Hall of Fame. Like,
do you understand what you're saying? If a coach of a Big 12 team beats Coastal Carolina, and I know Coastal's Coastal now. That's insane, man. That's insane.
Yeah, but it's Kansas, so does it even really count?
That's true. All right, moving on. My 2-point conversion, Tyler, I think I'm going to do it for the laughs. I don't feel comfortable picking any of these games that are like extremely different competitive levels.
Yeah.
Like Michigan State, Youngstown State, right? I don't feel comfortable picking that. I don't feel comfortable picking, something like Clemson, South Carolina State, even like UTSA Lamar or UCF Bethune-Cookman. I don't feel comfortable doing that. There's some other cool games. I think you mentioned some of them. Texas, Arkansas looks like a fun game. California, TCU looks like a fun game. That's an Alliance showcase right there. Colorado, Texas A&M you mentioned, but I'm going to stay in the SEC, and it is going to be a noon kickoff on the 4-letter network, ESPN. I'm going to take Pittsburgh on the road in Neyland Stadium to beat the Tennessee Volunteers.
Oh my God, I love it.
Tennessee let Bowling Green hang around the game last week.
Bowling Green is so bad.
Definitely a top 10 worst team in FBS. Arguably a bottom 5. I'm going to take Pitt to go into Neyland Stadium and beat Josh Heupel's Tennessee Volunteers. So that is my 2-point. So to recap here, Tyler, we have for 5 wide, we have Oregon and Ohio State. We both have Ohio State. Iowa and Iowa State. I have Iowa. You have Iowa State. App State, Miami. We both have Miami. Washington, Michigan. You have Washington. I have Michigan. Utah, BYU. Excuse me. I have allergies to this dog, which I love to death, and I take a pill, but that's okay. Where was I? I was at Utah taking on BYU. We both have Utah in the Holy War. And for our 2-point conversions, you have the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers taking on Kansas, while I have Pitt doing Pitt-type things in Neyland Stadium, beating Tennessee. As was said earlier, the score to date is still 4-4, and I apologize for cutting you off, Tyler. You were saying?
All I'm saying is that I cannot overstate how actively I am rooting for Pitt to beat Tennessee because of the lulls. The laughs, the LMAOs, the ha-has.
Oh, I cannot wait. I may or not just for the bit, just for fun, I may take that 25.5 Coastal Carolina in my spread pick'em league. I may do that.
Just to see,
it's worth a point. I'm not going to make it my triple. I have a triple point I can make each week, but I'm not going to do that. But I definitely will pick it for some. I'll fit it in some category. I'll find a way to do it.
Oh, you'll figure it out.
I'll find a way to do it. So I'll figure it out. Tyler, it looks like that's it. We have previewed all of week 2 for this college football season. We will be back early next week with a review of week 2. Don't forget, if you would like to receive the Sideline Judgment newsletter, send your email to sidelinejudgment@gmail.com. That's judgment with an E. And the first one will be coming out tomorrow because you were listening to this episode on Thursday, September 9th. So it will be coming out Friday, September 10th. Saturday is the 20th anniversary of 9/11 here in the United States. And so we wish everyone who lost someone or was affected in some way by the 2001 9/11 terrorist attacks. We wish you a day of peace. We wish you a day of remembrance of loved ones and military and first responders, a positive day. We know it is a sad day in this country's history, but we wish positive vibes and happiness in that sense. And I think regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, and however liberal you are, some kind of evilness we can all rebel against and come together in a moment of national mourning as a memorial to what happened 20 years ago. It's not an excuse to be Islamophobic. Your Muslim brothers and sisters do not have anything to do with the extremism that happened 20 years ago. So we just want to make sure that we cover all of those bases and show how much we care about what happened 20 years ago, and also how much we care about the persecution that our Muslim brothers and sisters had to go through in the aftermath of what happened 20 years ago. So a little bit of a sour thing to end on, Tyler, but I just remembered that 9/11 is this Saturday. No,
but that's a very important thing to say, and very poignant and very. It's important for us to always remind us what has happened to us, where we come from, and always remind yourselves that not to let those things make you a terrible human being.
Exactly. Yeah. So, with all of that being said, Tyler, we do have college football to celebrate.
Yeah.
If you can only watch a few games this week, we've kind of laid them out for you, which ones to watch. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what outlandish and overreaction statement is made by Florida Twitter this weekend. I can't wait, dude. I can't wait.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be fantastic.
I love the fact that we get the Bama game early, partly because we get answers to these things. But then again, the test will have swung so hard in the other direction from being two easy opponents relatively to the hardest, to the best team in the country. Yeah. And then we're not actually going to get any answers.
I know. What sucks is that I was able to get I kind of gave myself an over under as to how fast I was going to have to mute some group chats into the season. And I said 3.5 weeks. Is it going to be before the Bama game or is it going to be after the Bama game? And oh boy, was the under smashed. Oh my gosh. I was muting group chats on Monday. I was like, really? This is what we're doing? This is what we're doing? Literally 2 games after the first game of the season in a 30-point victory? This is what we're doing?
Hey, some people don't like to be happy.
Some people don't like to be happy.
There's one thing college football has taught me is that nitpicking is a kind of personality trait in large sections of the country.
You're not wrong, my friend. You are not wrong. I think that is a great way to end the episode, Tyler. This has been another episode of Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And we are not biased, Tyler, but go Gators.
Go Gators.